Well, thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Angie Martin, and I'm the Executive Director of the Skamania County Chamber of Commerce. And we're very excited to be co-hosting the event this evening with the Skamania County Democratic and Republican parties. I really enjoyed working with them. We had a great time organizing this event, and I feel like it was a really great example of good collaboration between the parties. We all have different viewpoints, but we're all committed to the good of Skamania County. So that's why we're all here. We want to hear directly from the candidates, encourage public participation in the democratic process, and help voters make informed decisions. So just a bit about the Skamania County Chamber of Commerce. We are a nonpartisan organization. We do not endorse candidates. Our role in advocacy is just to provide information, encourage engagement, and support a healthy and respectful public process. So before we begin, I'm going to review the format and ground rules for this evening. The candidate order for questions and answers will follow the order in which the candidates are listed on the ballot and will alternate as appropriate. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to give an opening statement. 2 questions will be asked by the moderators following that. These questions were submitted in advance and have been reviewed by both parties to make sure there is not any bias or leading questions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer those questions. We will not be taking any live questions from the audience this evening. Time limits for statements and answers will be strictly enforced. The timekeeper is sitting in the front row, and they will hold up the yellow paddle when you have 30 seconds left and the red paddle when your time is up. A candidate will be allowed to finish their sentence if they've already started it when the time runs out. So we ask that the candidates keep their comments respectful and focused on the office, the issues, and the needs of the community. Candidates should refrain from personal accusations, attacks, or issues that are unrelated to the office. The moderators will enforce the rules and time limits throughout the evening. And due to time constraints, we have a very full agenda again. We just ask that you would hold your applause until each group of candidates wraps up. So with that, I'd like to introduce our moderators for this evening, Joe Keir and Teresa Maycar.
All right, good evening. Thank you everyone for being here. This is an important event. We want to make well-informed decisions. So we appreciate the effort that you put out to be here tonight. Thank you. So right now we're going to give each candidate 2 minutes to introduce yourselves. We're going to start at the top of the ballot with Marie Glusenkamp-Perez.
Thank you. Tonight you're going to hear a lot of big culture war issues, big issues that if you spend your time watching MSNBC or Fox News, you hear a lot about already. I don't get my news from Fox News or MSNBC. I get my news from all of you, and that's who I work for. And I've known that the entire 3.5 years I've been in office. From the day I got in, I carried the finish line over on the Wind River tree nursery conveyance from the feds to our county. Getting an HVAC system at Carson Elementary School. Within 20 minutes of hearing that funding for rural veteran transportation to VA visits was pulled with no notice, I got on the phone, was making sure that we got that money back for our rural veterans, but for veterans across the country. The Underwood water system, getting funding for the Underwood water system, which became evident that was how urgent that need was right after the Tunnel 5 fire. I found a typewritten letter, older than I was, asking the Army Corps to convey an old building they'd surplus to the Port of Skamania. I brought that out and got that conveyance processed. Sea lions. How many mailers have all of you gotten about sea lions in the Columbia? You don't need mailers because you can't hear yourself think sometimes on the river over the barking of these invasive sea lions. Today, the president came out in support of my bill to expand lethal removal for sea lions on the Columbia River by our tribal partners. SRS. I care deeply about our SRS. It's where my kid's going to go to school is impacted by that as well. And was able to bring that money back and champion and make sure that we brought that money back to make sure we have secure education. I vote like an independent and I work like a dog, not because I'm afraid of losing an election, but because I love where I'm from, because I feel a deep sense of loyalty to our people and to the people and the sacrifice of everyone who's gone before us to give us this freedom and this spirit of independence and this agency in our lives.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Please hold your applause. We're going to hold all applause till the end. Next, we're going to hear from Brent Henrik.
Well, good evening, Skamania County. I am Brent Henrich. I am running to represent you in the 3rd Congressional District. I'm a father of 4. My oldest daughter, Brinley, is 15. My second child, Addison, was born and passed the same day in 2012. My son Brayden is 11, and my daughter, Brinley, is 7. I'm running to make sure that we are doing better for this district, that we are doing better for this country, that we are treating all humans with human rights every day at all times. I'm running to be an actual Democrat. This district voted for a Democrat 2 cycles in a row. We didn't vote to try and get it independent. We need a Democrat to uphold their morals and uphold what they say they're going to do on this campaign trail. I'm running to make sure that we're holding the current administration accountable, because right now we have an administration that is doing anything they want, whenever they want, and that's unacceptable. We need a co-equal branch of government in Congress, and we need people that are going to stand up and make sure that that happens. And I'm running to make sure that I am that person. I'm Brent Rich, and I hope to earn the vote.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from John Sully Roman.
What's going on, Stevenson? I'm John Sully Roman. I'm running as an independent. There's going to be a huge elephant in the room that probably won't be discussed tonight. You can cue the groans now, and that is Israel. Why do I say that? Because our politicians are absolutely overcome with lobbying interests that are not the interests of the American people. They're not the interests of this community and this country in general. Now, there is something very important that all of you should care about. In Congress right now, when they go back from recess, the National Defense Authorization Act will be up for a vote. What is in that vote? Legislation that incorporates, rather integrates Israel into our military and intelligence infrastructure. A genocidal, absolute monstrosity of a regime folded into this government. If you want to go and you want to support this country, research your candidate, find out where they stand on Israel. If they're willing to accept that lobbying money, they are not standing for you. They're not prioritizing you. They're not prioritizing this country, and we will always lose. I'm John Sully Roman. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Troy Rasband.
Hi, my name is Troy Rasband, and evidently I am running for Congress. I'm running as a Democrat, but also as a proud Democratic Socialist. When I was younger, my family didn't have much. We relied on things like EBT and Medicaid insurance to pay for my medical bills. And I don't think that our children should be growing up with the shame of wanting food or needing to see a doctor. And I believe that my 3 campaign points address that. Affordability, accountability, and community. I think affordability looks like universal healthcare through a Medicare for all system, close the gap for those who are already on it, then slowly roll it out, similar in style to Elizabeth Warren's plan. I think we need to bring accountability back into our government through a 2-part solution. We need to install term limits on the judicial branch, and specifically the SCOTUS justices, and we need to expand the court from 9 to 13. On the congressional side, we need to repeal Citizens United, ban stock trading, and ban Congress people from becoming lobbyists for at least 4 years after they leave office. And finally, for community, I believe that we need to bring it back to the immigrant community. I think the way that we are treating them right now is disgusting. And I believe fundamentally that America is a nation of immigrants. I think we need mandated audits into these facilities, and we need to expand the immigration court judges and the administrative staff to cut down on the processing times. And to sum it up, I don't believe that the elected office ends at making policy. I think it extends to working within your community, and being silent in this moment is being complicit as our rights are eroded away. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll hear from Senator John Braun.
Well, thank you. My name is John Braun. Thanks for being here this evening. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about me. I'm a veteran. I went to school on a Navy scholarship. That and working nights got me through school. Commissioned in the U.S. Navy, spent 7 years as a submarine officer in the U.S. Navy. Went to grad school, and my father convinced me to come back to Washington and take over a family business, a small business at the time, about 25 folks. We built specialty emergency vehicles. So we work for fire departments, police departments around the state and now around the country. We've grown that. We now have almost 350 family wage jobs built right here in Washington, right here in rural Washington. I understand what it takes to compete in business, what it takes to build jobs that support families long term. I'm committed to applying that experience to Southwest Washington, to our state and our country. I'm also a state senator. I've served as a citizen legislator for the last 14 years. I've worked hard on things like budgets, on policy, on difficult policy to make your lives, your family lives, your communities better long-term here in Southwest Washington and around our state. So that's kind of my background. But the most important thing you need to know about me is simple. I'm married to my wife, Marlo, for 37 years. We've raised 4 now adult children here in the state of Washington. None of them live here right now. 3 are in the military. 1 is a traveling nurse. And if you're like me and my wife, we badly want them to come back to the state of Washington. But to do that, we got to create a Washington they can afford to come back to. That means we have to focus on spending. We got to focus on keeping taxes lower. We got to focus on cost of living. And we got to do the right things for our families, for our communities, and for our state. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you very much. The last one, person is Lawrence Zabella.
Hello, I'm Lawrence. Go by Larry. I'm running as a center-right Republican, and my background, I was a cargo pilot. I have extensive, I will match anybody running in the 435 seats for international experience, because I was in cargo planes around the world doing different stuff. So I saw that, and that was one of the reasons that brought me to want to serve in Congress, is that you saw things going on out there, and you gain from the experience. And I want to, and then also, nobody knows who I am or anything about me. I did get an MBA from an accredited school, so it's a Harvard textbooks we use. So I did that too. So I think that kind of qualifies me, even though people say I'm not qualified. And the other aspect on this going forward is, do you want a Democrat in Congress or do you want a Republican vote? I'm going to be a solid Republican vote, not MAGA. I'm going to stay away and avoid that. And if you go because if you go Democrat, you're going to see them sliding towards socialism. In Clark County, the Democrats, they changed their website. They were talking socialism probably last fall, and then they swapped it around and it comes around a bit moderate. So if you go with me on this, I go in as a non-committed Republican. And that means that that would hold people in line, if you know what I mean. The other aspect is I'm looking for a good business climate integrated in the 3rd district. In California and Oregon don't want their successful businesses. Send them here. We want them. This is a state where people possessed with entrepreneurial animal spirits can be with their peeps.
Right, thank you. So we have 2 questions for each of these Congressional District 3 candidates. So we'll start again in ballot order. So here's the first question. Do you support the Save America Act? Why or why not? And we'll begin with Congresswoman Marie Glusenkamp-Perez.
Okay, so I really want to clarify here. I fundamentally believe that only U.S. citizens should determine the outcome of U.S. elections. There's been a real switcheroo here. There has been the SAVE Act for the last 4 years moving through Congress, supported by Chip Roy. And fundamentally what that did was a whole bunch of stuff. But if you lift the hood open on there, what you'll see is that it includes an attestation clause. If you live in a rural community, if you change your name, you can't get your birth certificate, you can sign an affidavit that says that you are a U.S. citizen with the right to vote. And so that is just an affirmation of the current law, saying that U.S. citizens determine the outcome of U.S. elections, which I agree with. So I voted for the SAVE Act 3 times now, and had a lot of actual death threats because of that. But I believe that only U.S. citizens should determine the outcome of our elections. Now they've swatched it to the Save America Act. The Save America Act is fundamentally different because that is about demonstrating your citizenship every time you vote. It requires the federal government to establish socialized photocopying services so you can photocopy your driver's license and include that with your mail-in ballot. Anybody think there's a problem with that? Does that feel like a security risk to anybody? Because it feels pretty wacko to me. So I was very comfortable voting against the Save America Act, and very comfortable voting for the SAVE Act. So wanted to clarify the difference between those two things. Neither political party has a whole lot of incentive, in my view, of eliminating the fact that the SAVE Act included the attestation clause, because they want to, make it big, make it angry, talk about all the crazy things that were in the bill that were ultimately remediated by the attestation clause. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, same question for Brent Henrich.
You repeat.
Do you support the Save America Act? Why or why not?
I do not support the Save America Act. I don't support what was formerly the SAVE Act. So pass a law to simply say people think something's happening, so we're going to pass a law to make them feel better, just clutters federal law. It's already illegal for non-citizens to vote. That means the law says that. Why would we need to pass a second law that says that also has potentially harmful side effects that can affect and disenfranchise millions of married women, LGBTQ married people, or those of the other LGBTQ communities who've changed their name for whatever reason that they have had? I don't see the reason in applying solutions to non-problems.
Thank you. John Solly Roman.
Who's familiar with the concept of problem, reaction, solution? A problem is created, a solution is proposed, but before that, the reaction. So far, up to this date, I haven't seen evidence, aside from a few cases here and there, very sporadic across this country, that would elicit the need for something that, as Brent said, there is already a law in place. Illegal people who are here illegally, they're not going to stick their necks out to vote for a candidate or a president and risk everything that they've worked for to get the better life that they've been. Whether you agree that they're here illegally or not, that's beside the point. The point is, things like this, that prevents, it's another hurdle for voters to get to the polls and drop their ballot in the box for the candidate that they choose. In this country, we should be making it easier, not harder. That's when you get a true representation of the people, the will of the people. By creating hurdles for people to have to jump over, you reduce the number of people that are going to participate. And the only ones that will be is not going to be a representation of the people of this country or this community. So no, I don't support yet another hurdle to prevent people from voting.
Thank you. Next is Troy Rasband.
I do not support the SAVE Act. I believe that American elections are already secure and that attacking our immigrant community as a shield to implement, quite frankly, disgusting policy, makes no sense to me. Our elections were already secure, and I don't see why we have to throw our immigrant community under the bus as well as millions of women. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Braun?
Thank you. So, actually agree with, Marie on this one to a certain extent. I support the SAVE Act, but I come to a different conclusion on Save America Act. I do agree with added things that we don't need in there. The fundamental question here, the question that about 80% of Washington citizens, about American citizens agree with is that we should have some reasonable form of voter ID. And that's what we're really talking about. Now, I think the Save America Act has added things that aren't necessary, that may complicate things, but I also have faith in the process. That in the end, we'll get to a bill that does the thing that the American people want without the extra thing. So I would vote for it. I get tired of some of the fear mongering. We have several examples around our country. You talk about federalism, the experiments of individual states. We have states who put in place voter ID, and all the fear mongering is going to keep people from voting. It's going to slow down voter rolls. Have not happened. Voters are still voting. This is not that complicated. It means you have to use your ID as part of the voting process. We have the technology to do that. We have an enhanced ID here in Washington State. You use your ID when you fly. You use your ID when you pay your utility bills. We use our ID. I bet everybody here uses their ID once or more times per day. That we should use some sort of voter ID to identify who's voting is not beyond the pale. We shouldn't fear monitor. This is something that has been done and can be done effectively and assure folks around our state and around our country are getting the chance to vote.
Thank you. And Lawyer, hello.
On the subject of our election integrity, folks, I kind of tuned this out. And the reason I tuned it out is because prior to Donald Trump being in the White House, we never heard about problems with the elections. If there are problems, I grant it to these people. You should not be voting if you are not a U.S. citizen. And it's reasonable for people who have questions to want to see a form of voter ID to make sure our elections are showing integrity. But right about now, looking forward, I feel this is Republican purgatory because of all the shenanigans that go on a daily basis out of the White House. And it's going to be, for me, I would put odds it's going to be a bloodbath. And so what is the only thing he does? He says, well, the elections are fraudulent. If I don't win, it's rigged. And you know what? And then he's talking about doing something running again in 2028. What is it going to be if you see ICE agents standing outside of polls? We don't need that. We do need to make sure our elections are free, fair, and honest. And if people are having an issue and they're saying, this is unfair, and I hear all the stories, okay, we'll allay we'll do things, pass the laws, or to make sure the motor voter, they were checking, I'm a citizen with no one checking it. So there are instances maybe where they've got a point. We can clean it up. But that's it. I personally not too crazy about what's going on because of the comments made. Thank you.
Mr. Kellogg, if you would stand at the podium, we're going to reverse the order on this next question. So the second question, what do you believe is the single biggest economic challenge facing Skamania County, and what would be your top priority to create sustainable family wage jobs?
Thank you for asking me that one. I'm not too familiar with forest land industry, and I don't really know what was going on with the clear cutting that was going on in the Reagan administration. I've wondered that. I've also wondered about you guys you're close enough to Portland. and Vancouver, but you're still far out. Is there any way to bring industry out here to help out when maybe the agriculture may not be doing enough here? I really don't know. But for the people of the third district, I'm really big on promoting businesses to come here and thrive. And that means you keep your word to them. It means you keep taxes within the Goldilocks zone. If other states are doing it, what is the best practices and what do people come to expect? Washington State, and this is part of Washington State. Last time I checked, Washington State, this state punches well above its weight economically. And here I'll name the top one, Boeing, phenomenal, made by union workers. And those machines are out on the opposite side of the world, flying people to and from the outside of the world, and it came from here. Microsoft, Costco, Starbucks, I could go, the list goes on. And so this state somehow got the mojo to create good businesses. And I wanted to make sure that good is translated to the people of the third district, that you guys get a good deal, a reward for the hard work and advancements you make as a worker. You want to have a car, you want to own your own homes. We want you to be able to save for some wealth, and we want a safe society. It's an integrated approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Braun?
Well, thank you. I'm going to talk about this in two parts. One is the threat to our state is present here in Skamania, and I want to talk about that. A little history lesson. I had the good fortune when elected to the Senate, we had a majority, Republican majority in the Senate. We had 5 years of majority where we insisted on balanced budgets, lived within our means, no new taxes, no new regulation, a fairly light touch on businesses. That was from 2013 to 2018. In 2018, Washington State writ large had the best state economy in our country. That's what good policy, good budgeting does for our state, and that spreads everywhere. Since then, we've seen a single majority dismantle our economy step by step. More taxes, more regulation, businesses leaving, people leaving, taking investment and entrepreneurs out of our state. That's bad for our state, and it's bad for Skamania County. So those are the things you got to focus on. Economic policy matters. It matters across our state. It matters in Southwest Washington. It matters across our country. For Skamania in particular, as I've talked to folks around Skamania, I don't think there can be much question. The biggest economic impact in Skamania County has to do with the timber industry. The effects of litigation, the effects of environmental extremism, the effects have both had a negative impact on the timber industry and, frankly, has caused more environmental damage in the terms of forest fires, carbon pollution. All these things go together. So if we could do one thing to improve Skamania County, we would improve the process so that we can effectively, environmentally log in the national forests. That would be a huge boon to Skamania County and also to Washington State. So that's where I would start. Thank you.
Thank you. Troy Rasband?
Yeah, so I've been traveling the district pretty heavily these past few weeks, and I've gotten a chance to speak with voters from Baycom, Longview, Lewis County, Cowlitz County, and I've asked them, what their top concern is, and it is usually jobs. And what I hear most of the time is that they want their timber jobs. They want it secured, they want more jobs for them, their kids, and so on. One of my policies is the Green New Deal as a policy architecture. And quite honestly, it is perfect for the Pacific Northwest, and it is actionable. Timber jobs are there for you, but renewable energy jobs with wind turbine production and solar panel energy production is a job for you, your kids, and your grandchildren. Those are not going to go away, and it's not going to take decades to grow back, and we don't have to sacrifice our national forest. I think this is completely doable. We should have been doing it 20 years ago. The next best time would be today. And I do think that it would guarantee good paying union jobs.
Thank you. John Sully Roman?
So once again, in my view, we failed to identify the real problem here. Obviously, We are all concerned about our families, the ones we love, making a living wage that we can support our kids and we can enjoy our lives. As we commit billions upon billions of dollars, in fact, in this upcoming National Defense Authorization Act, a total of $1.5 trillion is expected to be committed to the defense of this country. Now, whether you agree with that or not, that does not belie the fact that we don't have the funding for that. So what happens? That goes right up to our national debt, which is already pushing $40 trillion. And when you increase that national debt, your dollar is worth less. Your labor is worth less. And as Congress commits these billions upon billions to support a war and a genocide built on lies and propaganda, we pay. And so what's the solution? The solution, in my view, is we got to make change, big change. We got to get rid of these so-called representatives that are there representing not the American people, but a foreign and corporate interests that do not share your interests. That is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Brent Henry.
We all have family. We all have those people in our family who aren't actually our family, but we call them uncle this, cousin that, because they've always been around. I was raised by a wonderful mother and father, but we had very close family friends who, in my early adult life, became like second parents to me. And Jim Page was a lumber broker, and he built mills, and he built he built mills and he sold mills, and he dealt through all parts of the logging industry. We need to continue sustainable forestry, and we know that Skamania County needs that. I've been around that my whole life, but we also have to know that we have to transition. I want to make sure that in the short term, the federal government is making sure that logging is available so those jobs can continue. But we have to look to the future when it comes to what we're using our timber for. If we're using it for building, those are great things. But using it as an energy source, we need to transition away from that, and we can create new jobs there. We also need to make sure that we are lifting the tax burden off of the working class, and that we're taxing corporations and the rich and making them pay their fair share. Because right now, the working class is carrying too much of the weight. I want to make sure that we're also working to get to universal health care, that we're investing in rural infrastructure for rural healthcare infrastructure that is going to lift another weight off of the people of Skamania County and all counties in the state. I'm Brent Henrich, and I'm hoping to earn your vote.
Thank you. Congresswoman Marie Glusenkamp Rest.
So my mom is from Forks, Washington, and during the spotted owl crisis, everybody in my family lost their jobs. A lot of people in my family ate because their daddies were good fishermen. And so when we talk about what has been the economic interest of Skamania County, we grow trees here. And let's be very clear about what the replacement is for trees. It is petroleum-based plastic. So while we're making it harder and harder to have a timber economy where people have agency and skill and pride in their work, we are importing oil from Saudi Arabia. What is going on here? What kind of business, what kind of sense does that make to reach a carbon zero platform by shutting down mills and replacing them with plastics? Now, obviously, not everybody wants to, we can't, not everybody's going to work in the woods, all right? You can't all be so lucky. Some of you got to sit in air conditioning. I understand that, but the economy that's built when we have skill and agency and self-determination, that's what we want. Not handouts that are predicated on who's in power, but actual skill and power embedded in ordinary people, where you're not working 3 jobs. Right now we have an economy where you have 3 jobs, you 3 houses. And that's not right. You can't keep going down this path. Running our auto shop, I got to tell you, I lost a mechanic a few months ago moving to Idaho because he could afford rent there, because he could buy a house there. The housing shortage here, the cost of living here, the tax burden here, the ability to raise a family and see your kids at night, not working Grubhub, that all matters to a deliberative democracy when you're building it. We cannot also, we don't want to be in an economy where we're a raw material pass through, where we're sending our best logs overseas along with the jobs so they can mill them over there. We want those jobs here where we can see it and feel it and have that work and the confidence that it's not a child being exploited somewhere else, but these are family wage jobs again. We can't keep having our timber sales tied up in a 20-year lawsuit. What corporation can afford to have a timber sale in litigation for 20 years? The biggest ones. We need more players in this, not less.
Thank you. Right, you may applaud our candidate. Thank you. And as you guys exit the stage, I'm gonna hand my off to Joel.
Thank you, Treva. Let's have Representative Waters and Ben Chrisley come up, please. So while they're coming up to the stage, I just want to thank my Republican counterpart here, Treva, and the Chamber of Commerce. We had a message for folks that we're here to listen to each other. That's why we're holding applause until the end. One of the things we talked about is we had some signs removed, and we want to reinforce the idea that's part of public discourse too. So we don't want to see people taking yard signs down if they're on county right of way. They have a permit to be on county right of way. So let's all respect our opportunities to have dialogue and listen to each other. All right, we're ready for our state representative candidates for position 1. And we'll start with Kevin Waters to explain why you're running.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for hosting this. It's kind of cool sitting here. 4th generation Skamania County. I'm actually saying one of my grandparents had their 50th anniversary vow renewal when I was 8 years old. So I always love putting down the Eagle Center. Reasons why I'm running. We just heard about timber, and I think timber is the top of the conversation. I think that when we look at this county, when we look at what produces revenue for counties like ours, it's pretty obvious that it is definitely only timber. We just had a meeting with the county commissioners. 29% of the revenue comes from timber still. And I think that the other thing I want to talk about is the reasons why I ran is schools. I'm raising right now the 5th generation and go through Carson Elementary. Carson Elementary is still the same elementary school it was back in the 50s when my grandmother went there. My kids' great grandmother went there. I think that we need to look at this district as a whole. We cover all the way from Goldendale to the 205 bridge. That's a huge area. So we're talking about infrastructure. How do we invest in infrastructure? We have the Hood River Bridge. We have SR 14 that is arguably in the worst shape it's ever been in right now. We have bridges that are in disrepair and are not on WSDOT's list. It's infrastructure, it's jobs, it's timber. The other thing is a little bit about, well, I'll be quick. A little bit of my background is went K through 12 here, corrections officer. I started a grocery store with my parents, started backwoods brewing with my family. I'm now the economic development director. So I look to serve you. I look to serve from Goldendale to 205 Bridge. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Thank you. And now let's hear from Ben Chrisley.
Thanks again. Yeah, Ben Chrisley, running for 17th Legislative District. A lot of you may not know me. I'm a Navy veteran, former small business owner. I currently work as a flight nurse, father of 3, and a current county charter review commissioner. I'm running for a couple of different reasons. We do talk a lot about timber here in Skamania, but I think we all know if we take a moment, timber is not coming back to the height or the level that it was. So we have to start for sustainability while getting the maximum timber money that we can out. But we also have to start looking for other avenues to thrive here in this community. And so a couple of those have to do with small business, right? We do B&O tax that we have. I won't bore you with the minutiae of the particulars, but if you own a business here, you know that the B&O tax just jumped up quite a bit. I would like to see us move up that mark for an exemption to let businesses be able to thrive, reinvest into the community so that they can put that money back in and people can stay here and thrive here. Healthcare. As a registered nurse, I know how important healthcare is. And if you live here in this community, you know how hard it is to find healthcare, a primary care doc, or in a maternity desert. You have to go to Vancouver or over to Hood River if you want to have a baby, right? Our state has to invest money into rural community healthcare because it shouldn't be an afterthought. It should be a first thought. And that's what I'm going to bring to the table. I agree. We need bridges and roads. I will be that voice that will give the case that will finally get these bridges and these roads moved up on the list so we can finally get them replaced like they should have been done 10, 15 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, Kevin, let's start with question number 1. What is your position on mail-in voting in Washington State and why?
Oh, well, thank you. Ben and I actually, this is our second debate today. So we've already done this show today. You know, you'll see that I signed on for repealing mail-in voting, but I did it for different reasons. I actually believe that we have secure voting. I may be a weird Republican thinking that way, but here's where I'm at, is we're seeing school bonds, school levies fail at the biggest rates we've ever seen across this state. So I signed on to a bill this year to at least have the conversation. I work as the ranking member in state government, which is over voting and other state issues. And I told the chair, I said, we have to have this conversation. Because when we take away the ability to go into schools, firehouses, all of a sudden we're seeing levies, bonds decline. What are we doing about that? Can we do something to get folks back into those buildings, see the decline of a school, see the decline of a firehouse, and go, oh my goodness, they actually need this levy. They need this bond. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben. He stole my big bomb. He's the co-sponsor to end mail-in voting. So he kind of took the wind out of that sail a little bit, but it doesn't take away from the fact that that's what he did. Let me give you a number here because I wrote this down. 1 case per 16.7 million votes cast is the level of misappropriated votes that we've had. It's creating a solution to a problem that doesn't exist to drive a rhetoric line. I know all of you enjoy receiving your ballot. You get the voter's pamphlet. You get to sit down in the comfort of your own home and whatever you care to, your underwear, maybe whatever you want to do in your amazing homes that you have out here on your front porch with a coffee. You get to read through the voter's pamphlet. You get to get on the internet, broadband. I'm going to continue to work to bring broadband out here because it's still not here, even though the state's paid for it already. So we got to hold them accountable on that. So you get on your internet with your broadband and you can research each person so that you're not rushed for your voting. I voted in voting booths. I know you guys have too. That's a lot of stress in there, right? You have people waiting behind you. You don't get to research it in a hurry, right? With the safe and secure mail-in voting that we have currently, it gives us a chance to really research candidates and find out who's going to do the best job for us. And it's not always the member that's living right there in your community. Sometimes it's the guy down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Ben, if you would stay there, we'll give you the next question, which is, what is your vision for creating and protecting family wage jobs in forest products and forest restoration, and so our forests remain healthy and resilient to wildfire? And how would you create family wage jobs in Skamania?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think I'm going to take it off of timber just for a moment and go back to what I said at my opening. That's taking the B&O tax off of our small businesses so that they can expand, thrive, increase how much money they pay their employees, the benefits that they provide. That's going to help these companies grow out here. We have to have real conversations with business owners and other community leaders out here to find out what can we do out here in Skamania to bring new industry and new jobs, right? We have the scenic byway here. A lot of controversy on, do we develop that it's a beautiful place, but if we're gonna do any development there, it has to be with everybody's buy-in and input. That's gonna help create jobs as well. We're talking about sustainable timber, right? As the years have gone, we've automated more and more of the timber, so we've provided less and less actual family wage jobs, right? And so how do we bring those back? We don't, we can't bring those back to the same level that we had. But I think it's up to us at the state legislature to make sure that we're having funding to take care of our forests. So if that's what we're gonna do, we need to make sure those jobs are family wage jobs, to make sure that we're able to thin out where they need to be thinned, because we know that forest fires and wildfires can be detrimental to our communities. So with that, I'll leave that. Thank you.
Thank you. And Kevin Watkins.
Well, for those of you guys that are aware, Washington State owns about 80,000 acres of state timberland. They have less than about 5,000 acres that we can actually harvest from that. It's about 10,000 actually between the two trusts, 40,000 for the county and 40,000 for the school. Ben touched on it. We've got automation, but I'll give you this. I think that timber it still touches us in many ways. When you think about right now, DNR is cutting the lowest level of timber right now in the state. And what does that make? Well, it makes WKO right here in our backyard. It makes them have to haul in logs. They're hauling in logs from as far as Canada. So why is 14 in such bad shape? Well, we're seeing more product go on 14. Whereas before we were able to actually keep it here. We were actually able to keep those jobs here. We talk about carbon output, carbon sequestration. Those things happen if we're cutting our forests. We talk about underbrush. How do we have biomass facilities? How do we support folks that right now we're dealing with the Nippon shortage in Longview. Right now we're seeing mills with bark chips, sawdust. They're going up sky high because they're piling them up because they have nowhere to go. How do we look at other ways to generate revenue as a county where we're only 2% privately owned. The rest of it, 98%, is owned by the federal government and the state. So what do we do to say, hey, we have a nucleus here that we can do to keep it very in-house, whether it's biomass, whether it's cutting out our own timber, keeping the logging right here in our own backyard. And by the way, we are the greenest county in Washington State. When we talk about carbon output, clean carbon, this county does it better than anybody else. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you'll just give me a second to invite Diane Perez and Representative Stevie to the stage. Let's hear a round of applause for delegates.
Thank you both so much for being here. We'll start with Diana Perez.
Sure, ladies first. Hello, everyone. Diana Perez here. So happy to be with you here in community. For those of you who know me, you know where I'm from. I was raised in El Paso, Texas, and came up here to the Pacific Northwest on a student internship program as a biologist with the Forest Service. And then came up here to the Vancouver area where I worked as a biologist. And I've also done wildland firefighting. I'm a commissioner and a mother, and currently a Vancouver City Councilwoman. Really excited to be here. I feel like this landscape has been my backyard as a 35-year federal employee. I've worked with local organizations, state, federal, tribal, and nonprofits. I've snorkeled the white salmon and the Wind River looking for fish, and this is just all coming around in circles for me. I have two excellent children, one who's attending Western Washington University, and the other one who's just still living with me, who just graduated from WSUV. I have three priorities. And let me just first say why I chose to run for this representative position too. One is that I retired after 35 years as a federal employee on September 30th. And when elected as your legislator, I will step down to fully focus on the people of the 17th legislative district. So I want to take the impact that I've made at the local city level and take it to Olympia and better represent you, because I believe that people should see themselves reflected in the decisions that are being made in Olympia. The other thing is that I will deliver practical solutions, will work with anyone to make sure that we are fiscally responsible. And I believe that that is our duty, because we need government to work for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative David Stevie.
Well, welcome. Thanks for being here. Thanks for caring and taking an active part. Thanks for hosting this. So, my name is David Stevie. I'm the current sitting state rep up in Olympia, so I've been up there a year and a half. Currently, the mayor of Washington, a former United States Marine Corps colonel, traveled around the world. I had to find a place where I wanted to retire, and I found the Pacific Northwest, and pretty much came up here in like 208, 207, I think, to Washington. And the question is, why do I want to hold this position? I've served my whole life. I even had this question the other day, but I had to reflect back. I think it started with Boy Scouts. So is it Boy Scout, do a good deed daily, Eagle Scout, Scoutmaster, all that stuff. I love that program. But after the Marine Corps, I wanted to continue to serve. That's what you do. I took care of Marines and had a lot of purple billets, with all the different forces, a lot of coalition forces. But I want to continue to serve. And so been up there in Olympia for a year and a half. And what an education that is to see how that worked. 30 seconds. But all I can say is my biggest takeaway from that is bringing people together, working across the table and providing leadership and solutions. So that's why I want to continue to serve. I love our area down there. Thank you.
Thank you. So our first question will go to Diana. Yes. Question is, what is your position on the new Washington millionaire income tax?
The Washington millionaire income tax is one way that we've been able to address the awful regressive tax system that we have in the state of Washington. Folks like you and me are paying 3 to 4 times what the wealthier folks are paying. And we can no longer do that. It's not sustainable. Too many families are struggling. We can't afford to pay our rent or a mortgage. So I think it's one tool. Where I do not agree is the ability or leaving the door open to be able to lower the millionaire's tax. And I think there's that rhetoric and that fear out there that you're hearing is that we weren't there in the room to make a decision and such. Well, the millionaire's tax is going to really help us. It's just one tool. We've got a lot more work to do, and I will not support expanding the millionaire's tax, meaning lowering that threshold from $1,000 to maybe $800,000 or $200,000. So just to be clear, the millionaire's tax is a tax on everything above $1 million, a 9.9% on that. And so that's going to help us fill in the gaps at this point. We've seen it working in other states. And I believe that if we stand steady with that and really focus on addressing the bigger issue, which is our regressive tax system, that's just one tool.
Thank you.
So it would be nice if that's what this tax was, but it's not, and you should fear this tax. So I'm still having PTSD from fighting up there in Olympia. We spent 24 hours just on this one bill, fighting this one. We had all these amendments to try and soften this up and make it better. But One was, we want to guarantee that you will never lower that threshold. That amendment wasn't taken. I had an amendment of, aggressive taxing, you want to fix things, you want to help out our families. Groceries, gas, all the issues we have right now. Mine was, well, let's drop our sales tax. That's an immediate relief on our people, and they wouldn't even take that one. 83 amendments, not one was taken. I'm not sure. But it's some of the fear. There's so many people that are going to leave. And we got the calls up in Olympia. Like, wow, is that money going to come to me? Is it going to our schools? Is it going to our daycare? All our issues out there? That money was already spent. The session before, we raised $80 billion in taxes. They tax everything. Your fishing, your license, your parking, your food, your groceries. Our bills are high right now because of not a revenue problem, but a spending problem. We got to spend our money up front and not downriver. By not using it here, we've got 100 issues down here. So we need to fear that because it's people leaving, businesses leaving, jobs leaving. We want to attract stuff. We're going the wrong way. You need to rebuild that one. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Representative Stevie, the next question begins with you. What are your priorities for Skamania County? What have you already done for our community?
Yeah, thank you. So this county, I think, carried me in the election last time, and Golden Hill up there to hit the chat. But coming out here, priorities one is the fires. That's what I hear about a lot in the fear. Kevin talks about transportation. You are a logging industry out here. How do we promote jobs? I took a tour of your mill out here and amazed by the technology and what they're doing in the lasering. And then take a tree and laser and know exactly what type of boards are going to come out of that. They are providing paid wage jobs, which is important. Let's talk about, what kind of internships do you give our kids for the education? Can they come? Can they get a job during the summer and learn? And I heard this tonight, and one of my big things, how do we keep our kids here? How do we keep things affordable? It can't be just the tourism. It's got to be more than that. We need to really make sure that the resources we have, and where this has been like the richest county a long time ago, why did that change? How do we get that back? How do we fight Olympia, making common sense decisions instead of spending money, your tax dollars, going up and electrifying ferries up in Seattle? I want to keep scallop politics out of here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Diana Perez, please.
Thank you. As a former federal employee working in this landscape and working with rural communities, I think the number one priority is really to address the challenges that rural communities face. And in particular here in this area, we've got issues with access to affordable childcare, access to healthcare. This area is a childcare desert, and we also need the ability to look at our tax-based system and have a diversified rural economy here and not rely on one economy. We need to take a look at what else we can do versus just relying on timber receipts. We also need to address how the state is going to look at rural economies like Skamania County and work by bringing people together to address that challenge. So I think one of the key things is to bring folks together, the community together, to have some community-led strategies, think outside the box, and hit home on some of the issues and challenges that are facing. So as far as what I've done here for this area, I think the other thing is to highlight the precious resources that this area has in clean, affordable energy and how that can be sustainable and how we can use that. The carbon tax credits, how can we take advantage of that and bring more revenue into our area because of that? Public safety is another one. So in having the ability to tackle these issues head on, but number one thing for me is really addressing a smart approach to a diversified rural economy that includes infrastructure for our healthcare, infrastructure for building a workforce, family housing, infrastructure for our childcare, and our job training under the realm in affordable clean energy for the future. We must think long-term, sustainable, and not single and short-term.
Thank you very much. Thank you both for your answers.
We have Cora Moser and Gabriel Spencer, please.
Bathroom, quick. Just me.
Okay, we're ready to begin. So you would tell us why you're running. We'll start with Cora Moser.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here. My name is Cora Moser. I'm running for Skamania County Assessor. I was raised in LA and have deep roots here in this community. I bring over 20 years of paralegal experience, including 10 of those in real estate law, along with more than 8 years in Kane County. That experience has given me a strong understanding of property records, public service, and the importance of treating people fairly. I am running because I believe the assessor's office should be built on accountability, transparency, and service. As assessor, I will work to ensure property is assessed according to Washington law at its true and fair value, giving property owners confidence that assessments are fair and consistent. I also believe that transparency builds trust. State audits have identified opportunities to strengthen our county policies and improve public confidence, and I'm committed to that responsibility. I will work to protect our community assets, including Fairgrounds parking lot, which has served for generations of families through fairs, youth programs, local events, and tourism. Decisions affecting these properties should be transparent and include public involvement. Our assessor's office already has an excellent team of certified appraisers and certified GIS mapping manager. My role will be to provide strong leadership, support that team, and ensure outstanding service for every property owner. I will also continue advocating for property tax relief, including homestead exemptions and other tax reduction opportunities for Washington homeowners. I'm committed to serving all of Skamania County and putting property owners first. I would be honored to earn your trust, your support, and your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And Assessor Gabriel Spencer.
Good evening, and thank you for being here. I'm pretty much a lifelong resident of Skamania County and went to college, got my degree, came back here and was fortunate to get the job of the appraiser trainee. Raising my family, coaching kids and the youth sports, and earning the accreditation certifications that us appraisers get in the state of Washington. Getting a cadastral draftsman license to become the mapper, and to learn under a really good staff at that time, 2002 to 2007. When I took over the office 20 years ago, I came here and told you about GIS, a way to bring information to you at home. You'll be able to take advantage of and educate yourself about your property and many other tools. These tools have been used by the planning department, all the other departments, including private agencies out there. This is something that I started building with Rick Hollins back then. Today, you guys may be familiar with MapSifter and now our GIS Hub, which are two really cool tools that I offer. I've also recently, because I've long been an advocate for the senior exemption rights in our community, we were able to pass in Gross Senate Bill 6162 last year, which taking effect next year will raise our senior income levels from a low 58,000 for a household up to 76,000. In addition, there'll be $10,000 for a married couple in standard deductions for the first time. It's going to exempt them from both the state Part 1 and Part 2 levies. These are really important to our local community. I also really care about housing affordability. Over the last 20 years in this office, I've spent 14 on the Columbia Gorge Housing Authority.
I've spent 3 on the Columbia Cascade Housing Corporation and 7 with the Washington State Housing Finance Commission. My dedication to bringing more affordability, including the 14 units that will be going on in Carson, is something that I strongly advocate for. I really appreciate the last 20 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now we're ready for a question. This is we'll start with Cora Moser again. What do you think is the #1 priority for the assessor?
Well, as assessor, my #1 priority would be advocating for a statewide homestead or tax reduction program that would allow a portion of homeowners' assessed value to be exempt from property taxes. I also believe our current assessment practices should be carefully reviewed to ensure they comply with Washington state law. I've spoken with many concerned property owners and have taken the time to research their concerns and that they shared with me. In that research, I found examples where property values appeared to be set at or near purchase price or sale price value. Some homeowners are able to successfully appeal those assessments while others were not. The purchase price is only one factor in the appraisal process. It should not be used by itself to determine a property's taxable value. Washington State Association of Assessors has a quote that I really do like. It says, "Do not use the assessed value as the list price to sell property or the offer price to purchase property. Depending on the market trend, the market value may be higher, lower, or in some cases, the same as the assessed value." Every property owner deserves confidence that their property is being assessed consistently, fairly, and according to the law. That means following the statutes, using accurate information, applying accepted appraisal standards consistently, and being transparent about the process. As your assessor, I will focus on improving communication with taxpayers, increasing transparency, reviewing office policies where appropriate, and ensuring assessments are conducted consistently in accordance with Washington state law. Thank you.
Thank you. And Gabe Spencer, what is the #1 priority for the assessor?
I think Cora said it best. It really is about equitable assessments. And how do we study that? How do we gauge that equitability? It is difficult in rural communities, right? Maybe in North Bonneville, we have a lot of 1,400 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath homes on a third of an acre with lots of sales. Data is what drives the value, what things have sold for the previous year. We find it more challenging in areas like Mill A, where we have very few sales to work with. So what I've employed for 20 years, 23 of which as an accredited appraiser, who's never had a state audit of any significant findings, tested 2 to 3 times a year, every year, including the chasing the sales theory that you heard my opponent talk about. So I have the confidence to know that I'm within the IAAO standards for assessments for 20 years of proven correctness. And what's most important is the equitability. If this home and this home are the exact same, all things are being equal, their value should be equal. As another person adds an additional home or an ADU unit or an extra garage, their share of the assessment should go up. Of course, that's always going to be based on sales because that's what we're using. I appraise 75% of the area because I do the areas that are statistically updated through through sales analysis that I do, the ratio studies that I've learned for 24 years. So I know my methodology for those 20 years have been to be in the lower middle of the sales groups. If I have 4 comparables in your area, I am choosing between the second and the third on the lower side of that, unless there are circumstances that would warrant a higher valuation or lower valuation. Believe it or not, in 2009 and 10, I lowered a lot of your assessments. You know, no one ever talks about that when you come in my office. Thank you.
Thank you. And Gabe, the last question is for you first. This question is, what is your position on taxing unrealized property value gains?
Unrealized.
Yes, it's probably intended for a conversation starter, but it's, you know, it's perplexing because the The question is written, what is your position on taxing unrealized property value gains?
I'm unfamiliar with the term. I apologize.
I think, do we have another question? No? Okay, we'll do this one. What is the one thing the assessor's office is doing well that you would continue, and what would you do to change immediately?
That's a great question. Actually, I talked about GIS earlier and where we take that in the future. I also recently added, because people that are coming into the senior exemption age group are actually very computer savvy, more so than I for the most part. And so what I've just added to the website is a tool that allows people at home to be able to put in all the information that they need to see if they're going to qualify. It's really user friendly, and anyone getting close to the age of 61, I encourage you to go on there and play with that to see if you're going to qualify in the future. Each year for the next few years, we're going to be tied to our local income levels, so that number is going to continue to rise. You may find yourself qualifying. So that's the kind of technology. I created our first website. I brought everything in our office onto it, and now I'm adding tools that are going to help you at home to be able to see positive results. So that's what I think is really important in the future. And thank you very much for the question.
Thank you. And Cora Moser, what is the one thing that the assessor's office is doing well, and what would you continue? And what one thing would you change immediately?
Well, I think what Dave was just talking about, the program is that to go online and to be able to do that easily for people is a good idea. The biggest change I would bring is a renewed focus on serving the people of Skamania County. I would renew our assessment practices to ensure they fully comply with Washington law and accepted appraisal standards. Every property owner should have confidence that assessments are based on accurate data, consistent methods, and true and fair value, not any single factor alone. I would also strengthen communication with the public. That means making information easier to understand, explaining the appeal process clearly, and being able to answer questions. An informed property owner is better able to protect their rights. As assessor, I would advocate at the state level for meaningful property tax relief as well. While the assessor cannot change the state tax law alone, I believe the office should actively advocate for policies that help people remain in their homes. Finally, I would leave the office with professionalism, integrity, and accountability. My background in real estate law, my years of county service, and my commitment to this community have prepared me to manage the office effectively while earning the public's trust. For me, this position is about more than valuing property. It's about serving the people fairly, protecting taxpayers' confidence, and ensuring the assessor's office works for everyone in Skamania County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's have a round of applause. For those of you still in, we do have seats available in the front if you want to see.
All right. Next, we have candidates for county clerk with Grace Cross and Olivia Munch. Please join us. Welcome. And again, we're going to go in the order of the ballot. So Grace Cross, you will tell us why you're running.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Grace Cross, and I'm asking for your vote for re-election as county clerk and the clerk of the Superior Court. I'm a lifelong resident of Skamania County. I grew up here, built my home here, and raised my family here. Public service has always been important to me. My career began in the Skamania County Sheriff's Department in 1996 before my path led me into the court system. For nearly 30 years, I've served in the criminal justice and legal system, including 20 years in the clerk's office and 10 years as your elected clerk. The clerk's office is about people. We maintain the official records of the Superior Court, help people file important legal documents, support the courts, and assist individuals and families as they navigate some of life's most difficult situations. My commitment has always been to provide those services with fairness, professionalism, respect. During my time as clerk, I have worked to make court services easier to access, implementing electronic filing, providing online access to public records while preserving them permanently, improving jury service, and an online response system that makes the process more efficient. I believe experience means continuing to learn. I stay actively involved in statewide clerk organizations to keep up with changes in law, court procedures, and technology. I was recently honored to be sworn in as the Southwest District representative with the Washington State Association of County Clerks. I bring that knowledge back to better serve Skamania County. The clerk's office is built on trust. My responsibility is to follow the law, protect the integrity of the court, and provide honest, accessible, and professional service to the citizens of the county. It has been my honor to serve as your county clerk, and I respectfully ask for your votes.
Thank you. Olivia.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. My name is Olivia Munch, and I'm running for county clerk. This is my first time running for office. I'm committed to serving this community that I've grown up in. My husband Trevor and I are raising our two daughters here. Trinity just graduated from Stevenson High School, and Scarlett will be starting as a freshman in the fall. We're active in the 4-H community, the equestrian community, and in youth sports. We've built our lives here, and I'm committed to keeping it strong. I've worked for the county for 18 years, 14 of those in the clerk's office as a deputy clerk. I've managed jury coordination, maintained court records, and helped countless citizens navigate the court system. Hands-on experience has given me the deep understanding of what this office does and why it matters to our community. I hold an associate's degree in applied science, and I pride myself on being organized and detail-oriented, which is essential to protecting the integrity of the court records. Being approachable is really important to me. People come into the clerk's office during stressful times in their lives. I believe your clerk can remain neutral, provide courteous, professional service, and help people identify resources available to them. I've built strong relationships across county offices. In a small community like ours, collaboration is essential. I'm committed to supporting our staff, embracing technology to serve citizens better, and remaining accountable to the people we serve. I believe county government should be transparent, fiscally responsible, and serve our citizens fairly and efficiently. That's what I'll bring to this office. And I'd like to thank everyone that is supporting me.
Thank you very much. All right, so first question goes to Grace Cross. What is the most important role of the county clerk?
The most important role is to maintain and protect the court record. So it's important to preserve the record, make public records accessible to the public, and really secure access for everyone. We've done an excellent job at improving access to justice by providing technology that allows individuals to file with the court more easily, especially in a rural community where driving to the courthouse is not always efficient. We've done an excellent job in training our staff to help serve the public with respect and dignity. And we continue to support the administration of justice.
Thank you. Olivia Munch, same question. What is the most important role of the county clerk?
I agree that it's very important to keep within integrity of the court record and to treat everyone fairly. I also think it's very important that when people come to the clerk's office that you greet them with some compassion and maybe friendliness. They're coming usually to you in a time that is not great for a lot of people. I don't know if a lot of people know what the clerk's office does, but it's where we keep, filings for criminal cases, divorce cases, estate cases. All those types of cases are things where people are sometimes at their worst times in their life, and they should be treated fairly I think that's very important also.
Thank you. And if you'll remain there. The second question. What is one thing the clerk's office is doing well that you would continue? And what is one thing that you would change immediately?
I think the clerk's office does a good job of being impartial now. I think one thing I would change is I would work on relationships with other county offices. And like I said before, just having people feel that the clerk's office is approachable, that they can go there and feel comfortable. That when they're confused about the legal system, that we can help them as much as we can without giving legal advice, but try to help them through that confusing time that they don't know what's going on, and you can kind of guide them, give them resources, show them places they can go for help.
Can you please repeat the question?
Yes, the question is, what is one thing the clerk's office is doing well that you would continue? And what is one thing that you would change immediately?
So we've done pretty well with implementing new technology, and I think that's propelled the clerk's office in a future direction. I think that we've been receiving extreme compliments at the fact that people can access records online, they can access jury summonses, they can respond online as well. There's a lot of new technology that's been implemented that I'm pretty proud of. And we've changed the clerk's office to be more accessible. And I think that's something that we've done pretty well. What we would change? I would say that continuing to improve where we can, support the public when they come in to file with the court. We've continued to be compassionate, and I've trained my staff to do the same, and they're doing very well. So continuing to train them is going to be our best asset. And so that's what we're doing well, and we're going to continue to do.
Thank you both very much. You are free to applaud, please. So
let's have Commissioner candidates, Commissioner A. Selecki and Paul Musburger. So again, we're going in ballot order. We're going to start with Paul Musburger. You can explain your candidacy and why you wanted the position.
First, I'd like to introduce myself and thank you all for staying where everybody else until you got to us. I am Paul Mossberger. My wife and I live in Underwood. We have for 22 years. We have 3 children that we raised. We are all products of the White Sand Valley School District, preschool through high school. I was volunteer on the Cherry Lane Fire Department until we moved down the hill to Houston, when coaching, scouts, and all other children's activities took up the rest of my time. I was no longer able to do that. I worked in the timber industry. I was a victim of the timber industry. Then I worked in the agriculture industry, certified organic, wide variation in cultural thought patterns. And finally, the last 12 years of my working career, I was an apple production manager and cherry line bud manager for Underwood Fruit, now not Adams Fruit. The background of working in those 3 industries really helped me in my most fulfilling thing I've done in my life besides family. That was my 15 years on the White Sand Valley School Board. When I started on the school board, we were in danger of losing our bond rating, which is critical, as anyone knows anything about schools and finances. It's critical to rating school. By the end of my career there, we had a surplus of almost 4 times what we needed. Something that I don't understand, what's voted me to run for this office, is almost 40 years since we lost our timber cut. Why haven't we figured out how to manage and maintain our budget in this county? Why haven't we found other reasons? School bit, sorry.
Asa. Good evening. I'm Asa Leckie and I'm running for re-election as Skamania County Commissioner for District 3. In my first term, I've worked every day to tackle the real challenges facing our county. Many of these issues stem from federal and state laws and policies which we have little or no control. We're also dealing with new pressure, rising homeowners insurance costs due to wildfire risk, affordability challenges driven by energy prices, gas costs, and Olympia's growing spending and regressive taxes that hit our small businesses and families the hardest. Skamania County does not have a large property tax base that other counties enjoy. We rely heavily on our timber resources to fund local government. When the Federal Secure Rural School Act lapsed, revenue from state DNR trust lands helped us bridge our funding gap. This also allowed us to maintain services and protect jobs without cuts. During my first term, we've added more than $400,000 in new revenue without raising taxes. I will continue championing practical, locally driven solutions that support business retention, expansion, and attraction of our rural county. We all know that the Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area and Gifford Pinchot National Forest limit our developable land. It makes it hard to create affordable housing and commercial space for growing or relocating businesses. In my term, we are having new conversations and looking at new ways to solve these problems. One example I'm working on is a manufacturing ocean and canoe racing company interested in locating operations here in the Gorge. Drawn by our summer racing events and ideal winter training conditions, they plan to build temporary on-site housing for crews and athletes. Above all, I serve Skamania County residents first. I understand the sacrifices our families make to live here. That's why local government must not add to those burdens. We must deliver on roads and public safety by keeping taxes low. I will not support any new taxes without a direct vote of the people. And thank you for the Democrat Party, Republican Party, Chamber of Commerce, and my opponent for attending tonight's event. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll go to the first question. This would be for Paul. Do you support the annual 1% property tax increase the commissioners can take without a vote of the people every year the budget is adopted?
Absolutely not. That's all I have to say about that.
Asa.
I agree with my opponent. The last budget cycle, the 1% property tax increase was roughly $28,000. That solves nothing in the county. And also, our residents are dealing with a lot right now. There's a lot of costs that are hitting us. And I just believe that increasing property taxes that aren't solving a real issue is just more salt in the wound that our residents deal with. So thank you.
And Asa, if you would take question number 2. What does property rights mean to you?
That's a good one. So property rights, back when this area was homesteaded, when people had a lot of area to spread out on, you could do whatever you want with the property, not impact it. But then as society developed, we get closer and closer together, we need regulations so that we don't tear each other apart. It's civilized society. But also, you have to be careful that regulations does not become overburdensome, that becomes a de facto taking by government. So that's in the state constitution, and that's what I believe. So regulation and growth must be managed effectively. It's also very hard to manage in Skamania County because we have comprehensive plans that are developed by input from the community. And first and foremost, if you're going to change those comprehensive plans, you must go to the community first and ask them what they want. And that's what I believe should be driving the land use decisions. But you have to balance that with the right of the property. Thank you.
Paul Musbaker, same question.
Could you repeat it, please?
Yes. If the question is, what does property rights mean to you?
Property rights means that the person who owns the property can do anything they want with the property within the parameters and boundaries the county, the state has set for them. You shouldn't be burdened my opponent says, by excess regulation. However, a property owner should not infringe on the rights of peace and quiet of their neighbors or degrade their neighborhood with what they're doing. We're currently in a position where we've had this happen over in Underwood, where we're moving things from timberland into areas where in the smaller lots where they can build houses. That affects our timber industry. That's the reason way back when that was zoned, they were zoned at 80 acres, not being allowed to shrink to smaller acreages. If you have a smaller acreage, a 10 acre plot, you're going to have someone come build a McMansion. Do you think they're going to cut any of that timber that'll help us with our taxes, with our schools, with our county? I don't think so. That's been looked at, is the taxes they're paying annually on their house, because they shrink it down to only 1 acre being taxable, and that's to keep in timber exemption. Is that going to make up the difference in what we get when they do cut? Not sure. I haven't looked at those numbers. I'm not sure if ASA has either, but I don't think it would. So I think property rights are important for the individuals to maintain what they want to do with their property within the boundaries that are set by the community of the state.
Thank you. So I want to ask you to applaud our candidates for commission. We're actually ahead of schedule, so you'll have plenty of time to meet all the candidates at their tables and ask further questions. We're going to hear from Angie Martin to give some concluding remarks. I would just like to thank Treva Mahar and the Republican Party and the County Chamber of Commerce for helping organize this tonight. And I want to thank everyone in the audience for coming and being a civic-minded voter. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
I don't know that. Simple as that. Thank you all for coming. Thank you so much to the candidates for coming this evening and taking the time to answer questions from our local residents. Thank you to the Democratic and Republican parties. It was a joy working with you. Thank you for all the volunteers who helped set up this evening. It was incredible. And a special thanks to Treva and Joe, and then Richard and Dan, who helped with the AP.